Hello, third grade, and welcome back to science. We are beginning module 4 on parents and offspring, and our first lesson is going to be about the life cycle of plants. So let's go ahead and watch our short little video here, and then we're going to dive right into our pages.
Oh, hello! I'm Poppy, and I just spotted a bald eagle with my binoculars. I love watching wildlife. That's why I want to be a park ranger when I grow up. Park rangers protect and preserve the park and help keep people safe from dangers within the park. To be a park ranger, you have to know a lot about plants and animals. That's why I try to observe them as much as I can. If you like plants and animals and being outdoors, then you might want to be a park ranger too.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our lesson. Now, the first part of our lesson for plants and life cycles, you're going to come across this first page. It says plants and animals are grouped in the table shown above. How many of the groups contain examples of things that have a life cycle? Circle the answer that best matches your thinking. So you're going to go ahead and do that. And then once you've completed that, we're going to go on to the next page. And in order to write your questions, we're going to go ahead and watch this short video on how a plant is grown. All right, now that you've seen this short video, you can go ahead and rewind the video if you like. Otherwise, you can go ahead and start answering the questions on the following pages. So remember, for this page, we said you were going to select which group, and then you were going to explain your thinking at the bottom. After you've completed this page, here you're going to answer questions about the video that we just watched, or you're going to, write down questions about the video that we just watched. So remember, come up with at least 3 questions. Please write neatly, check your spelling and grammar. And then you're going to read about the STEM career connection. And we're going to read about a botanist, which is a plant scientist. After you've read through these 2 short paragraphs, you're going to go ahead and answer the questions on the following page. What are the seeds of a live oak tree called? You're going to find that over here, as well as what helped the oak tree get healthy. After you've written your answers for those 2 questions, you're going to answer the essential question that asks, how are life cycles of plants similar? Moving on, we're going to jump into our first inquiry activity, and this is going to be a fun one. You're going to be observing seed growth. So what do seeds need in order to grow? First, you're going to make your prediction. Which seeds do you think will grow? One that has water or one that does not? So you're going to write your prediction here. You're going to gather your materials. You're going to get 2 sandwich bags, or like Ziploc bags, 2 paper towels, some bean seeds, and some water. So you're going to fold the paper towels so that they fit inside of the Ziploc bag. And you're going to soak one of the paper towels with water. So you're going to make sure it gets really, really wet. So you can either put the paper towel in there and then pour some water in there, or you could wet the paper towel first and then lay it inside. So you're going to lay them flat inside of your zip top bag. And then you're going to put some seeds in there. So the one that has a dry paper towel, you'll put some seeds in there. The one that has a wet paper towel, you'll put some seeds on it. So you want to press the seeds into the paper towel. So you have your bag laid flat on your table. You put the seeds on top of the wet paper towel inside the bag and kind of push them down, push any of the extra air out, and then seal the bag or close the bag. And you're going to be observing and watching your seeds for the next 5 days. So day 1 would be the first day that you start the activity. Write down what you see about both bags, day 2, 3, 4, and 5. So make sure you're putting your bags somewhere that's a safe place where they're not going to get moved around a lot, on a counter or on your desk that you study on, or on a shelf, anywhere where they're not going to get moved around too much. After the 5 days, we'll be able to answer these questions. So these we're going to come back to after 5 days. And the questions ask, what differences did you notice between the two bags? And then based on your observations, what do you think seeds need in order to grow? So these are pages that we're going to circle back to once we've had all 5 days to watch our seeds. So I'm going to go ahead and close out those pages. Now, our next set of pages, we're going to go over our new vocabulary for this lesson. So we have 3 vocabulary words. We have the word germinate, life cycle, and reproduction. So let's go ahead and open up our vocabulary. So our vocabulary words for this week, germinate means for something to begin to grow from a seed into a young plant. So when that seed first sprouts, we see that first little plant sprout out of it, that's called germination. The life cycle is how a certain kind of organism grows and reproduces. So how a certain kind of living thing grows and makes more of itself. And then reproduction is the making of offspring. So making seeds to make new baby plants. Now we're going to read pages 54 and 55 in our science handbook. That's our textbook. And we're going to answer these questions. What are 5 things that plants need in order to live? What role do plants play in creating oxygen that animals need to breathe? And why do you think big trees in a forest grow far apart from each other? So those are the 3 questions we're going to focus on. Now let's go ahead and jump into our textbook, and we're going to be reading these 2 pages, 54 and 55. The needs of plants. Like all organisms, plants have needs. Plants get everything they need from their environment. Living things that do not get what they need may die. Plants need carbon dioxide, water, light, nutrients, and space to live. So those are your 5 things that they need right there. And then we're going to talk in more detail about each one of them in the next few paragraphs. So if you want to jump back into your workbook and write those down, you can go ahead and do that. Carbon dioxide. Plants get a gas called carbon dioxide from their environment. Plants take in the gas through their leaves. They use this gas to make food. Oxygen is another kind of gas. It is made as a plant makes food. Plants give off oxygen they need. Plants give off oxygen they make through their leaves. Animals breathe in this oxygen to stay alive. So that's part of your second question over here. What role do plants play in creating oxygen that animals need to breathe? That's in this paragraph. Next, we have water. Like all living things, plants need water. They take in water through their roots. Water travels from the roots up to the stem, into the leaves. Plants use water for many life functions. Water helps a plant to stand up. It keeps the plant from wilting. A plant also uses water to make food. Too much water can be harmful to plants. The plant on the right had too much water. So you have to be careful when you're watering your plant. If you have a house plant at home and you kind of put your finger on the soil, if the soil still feels kind of moist and damp, then it doesn't need any water. If it feels dry and crumbly, then it's time to water it. Light. There is a reason you do not see plants growing in caves. There's no light. The green parts of plants collect the energy in light and use it to make their food. Nutrients. In addition to light, air, and water, plants need nutrients to survive. Nutrients are substances that help living things grow and stay healthy. Nutrients are dissolved in water. Plants absorb nutrients when they take in water through their roots. Space. Plants need space to grow and to get water and sunlight. Different plants need different amounts of space. Grass plants grow very close together. The plants grown in a vegetable garden do well when they have more room. Although most plants grow in soil, a plant can also grow in water without soil if it gets the nutrients that it needs. Sunflowers need a lot of sunlight to grow. So you found the answers for the first 2 questions. Now, based on what we read, Why do you think that really big trees in a forest need to grow far apart from each other? Go ahead and give your best answer right there. Then we're going to go into our next activity. You observed some of the things that seeds need to grow. Now examine the parts of a seed. Write a question that you would like to answer in your investigation. So you're going to need water, bean seeds, and a magnifying glass. Soak the bean seeds in water for 24 hours before the investigation. So have some of your bean seeds soaking overnight the day before you start. Pick up the bean and examine it using a magnifying glass. On a separate sheet of paper, draw what you see. Or you can draw it here at the bottom of this page. That's fine. You don't need to do it on a separate paper. Number 3, rub the soaked bean between your fingers. The outer covering should rub off, so the skin that's on the outside of that bean should come off. What does the bean look like now? Write a description below your drawing. So make your drawing and then tell me what it looks like after you rub off the seed coat. Locate the line that runs down the middle of the seed and split the seed apart along that line. So you'll see when you're looking at your seed, there's a part where it looks like the two pieces are put together. You want to either use your fingers or have mom or dad help you to kind of pry those two pieces apart. Use your magnifying glass to examine the inside of the seeds, and then draw what you see on the sheet of paper you used for step 2. And then we're going to read page 58 in the science handbook and answer the questions after we finish the reading. So use the information you read to label the drawings that you made during your investigation. What is the vocabulary word used to describe when seeds start sprouting? So when a baby plant comes out of a seed, what's it called? That was one of our vocabulary words. And then on page 56 in the handbook, we're going to answer the question after we finish the reading. Describe the process of pollination. Then what is the role that fruits play in a plant's life cycle? And for number 8, what is the next step in the life cycle of a cherry tree after it has grown into an adult tree? So let's take a look at our science handbook. All right, so we're going to begin over here with page 58. We read page 56 already. Or no, we haven't gotten to page 56 yet. My apologies, guys. Let's start with page 58, and then we'll go back to page 56. From a seed to a plant. If you've ever eaten peas, corn, or nuts, you've eaten seeds. Inside each seed is an embryo, a young plant that is ready to start growing. Also inside the seed is food for the embryo to use as it grows. The outside of a seed is tough so that it can protect the embryo. So this is the covering, the seed coat. All of this part is the stored food for the seed. And then if you look really closely at your seed, this tiny little piece that you see sitting in here, that's the embryo, that's the baby plant. So all of this other stuff on the outside, that's food for the baby plant to grow. When the conditions are right, a seed will germinate. To germinate means to start growing. It waits until the temperature is right and the soil is wet enough. Some seeds wait for months or years before germinating. A germinating embryo soaks up water until it swells. Then it bursts through the seed's outer covering. Over time, the seed grows to be a mature plant. So here you can see a dandelion, the seed sprout of the dandelion, and then the seedling develops a stem and roots and little leaves, and then a flower forms, and then the adult dandelion makes new seeds, which are these little guys that you guys see floating away all the time. So what is a vocabulary word used to describe when a seed starts sprouting or when it starts growing? Go ahead and fill that in. And then we're going to go back to page 56, and we're going to read about the process of pollination and the role that fruits play in a plant's life cycle. Okay, reproducing with flowers. How a plant germinates, grows, and reproduces is its life cycle. A cherry tree makes new seeds in its flowers. Inside the flowers, male parts make pollen and female parts make eggs. Bees visit the flowers. They carry pollen from one flower to another. Pollination occurs when pollen and an egg meet. Pollination causes seeds to form. Cherries are fruits that form around these seeds. The fruit protects the seeds as they develop. After the fruit ripens, it may fall onto the ground and break open. That releases the seed. Sometimes an animal eats the fruit and deposits the seed in its droppings. When soil and water conditions are right, the seed can germinate. A new cherry tree will grow. So let's take a look at the life cycle over here. So we'll have a cherry seed that's germinating in the soil, and then a young cherry tree begins to grow out of it. Then it grows flowers, and the bees carry the pollen from the flowers to the egg in an adult tree, and then it starts to form seeds. And once it forms the seeds, then fruit will start to grow around the seed. And then once the fruit is ripe, it may fall and it may break open where it'll let the seed out, or an animal may eat the fruit and then leave the seed behind. So describe the process of pollination. What is the role that fruits play in the plant's life cycle? So pollination is going to be all up here in that first paragraph, and how fruit plays a role in seed dispersal is over here and in the plant's life cycle. And then what is the next step in the life cycle of a cherry tree after it has grown into an adult? Whoops. So after it's grown into an adult, it begins to form the seeds and form the fruit around the seeds. Now let's go on, and we're going to revisit the seed growth activity on page 129 and 130. And we're going to use what we learned so far. Which part of the plant's life cycle are you seeing in the seed growth activity? Now, this is the one where we had put our seeds in the Ziploc bag. So these are pages you would answer after that. What would happen next in the life cycle of this plant? Draw a diagram to show what happened to the seeds as it started to grow. So draw and label a diagram showing what happened to your seeds as it was growing. Next, we're going to go on and read about cones and spores. So we're going to read pages 57 and 59 in our science handbook and answer these questions. Where do the seeds from pine trees form? What is the difference between a seed and a spore? And then describe a situation in which you can grow a new plant without using a seed. So let's go ahead and take a look at page 57 and then page 59. How a plant germinates. Whoops. Here we go, page 57, reproducing with cones. A pine tree's life cycle is similar to a flowering plant's, but pine trees don't have flowers. Instead, they form seeds inside of their cones. Pollination takes place when the wind blows pollen from male cones into female cones. Seeds develop in the female cones. When the seeds are ready, the cone opens and the wind blows the seeds to new places. Plants that produce cones for reproduction are called conifers. Conifers have needle-shaped leaves. Most conifers keep their needles year-round. These plants are often called evergreens. However, not all conifers are evergreens. For example, the western larch's needles turn yellow and drop off in autumn. The life cycle of a pine tree. We have a young tree that grows and then into an adult tree, and the adult tree makes male and female cones. The wind blows pollen from the male cones to the female cones, and then seeds begin to develop in the female cones. Then when the cone is ripe, the seeds fall out and a pine seed germinates in the soil, starting the life cycle again. So for your first question, where do seeds of pine trees form? They form in the cones. What is the difference between a seed and a spore? And describe a situation in which you can grow a new plant without using a seed. We're going to go ahead and take a look at page 59 to find the rest of those answers. Reproducing without seeds. Some plants reproduce without making seeds. For example, ferns reproduce by making spores. Spores are like seeds in some ways. They fall in the ground or blow in the wind. They can become a new fern plant. Unlike a seed, a spore does not have food for its embryo. New plants can also grow from parts of plants. The part of a potato plant that we eat is a tuber. A tuber is a large underground stem. We call the small white buds on potatoes eyes. New stems and leaves can grow from these buds. Other plants, such as onions, can grow from an underground stem called a bulb. A new basil plant can grow from the stem or leaf if it is placed in water. Now here's the life cycle of a fern. When you have a young fern, it grows, and when cells from the male and female parts join, and then the adult fern grows and releases spores, and the spores grow into a small organism with male and female parts, and the life cycle starts again. So what is the difference between a seed and a spore? You can find that information right here in the bottom of this first paragraph. And describe a situation where you can grow a new plant without using a seed. You can use either of the examples that are listed over here. Next, we're going to go into our following page, and we're going to explore a digital interactive activity titled Seed Dispersal on how plants spread their seeds, and we're going to answer the questions after we finished. The first question says, how are dandelion seeds spread? Number 2 says, share 2 ways animals help with seed dispersal, with spreading out seeds. Number 3 says, think about the needs of plants. Why might seed dispersal be important? And number 4, what do you think the word dispersal means? So let's go ahead and jump back and we'll watch that activity.
Read about the ways that seeds are dispersed to grow new plants. Before a seed can germinate, it must find its way to the soil. This fuzzy dandelion loses its seeds when the wind blows. The wind carries each seed to a new place. The seeds are then able to grow new dandelions. Birds help seeds travel too. They eat berries from high-end trees like this one. Once the bird eats the fruit, the seeds can pass through the animal's body. They are left on the ground in the animal's waist. Seeds can travel very long distances when carried by birds. Many other animals help seeds find new locations. Some eat seeds, others bury seeds like acorns. Some seeds have parts that stick to animals' fur. These seeds get stuck on the animal and are carried to new places. When they fall off, they can begin to grow.
Okay, so that's the entire activity. How are dandelion seeds spread? You can go ahead and rewind the video and re-listen to those sections. Share 2 ways that animals help with seed dispersal. Think about the needs of plants. Why might seed dispersal be important? And what do you think the word dispersal means? So over here, think about how those dandelion seeds are spread around. We saw pictures of it. And then go ahead and answer the remaining questions on this page. Next, we're going to go into our next page. So we're going to see, a botanist needs to understand the life cycles of plants. You will use what you learned in the lesson to draw a model of a plant's life cycle. Write a question that you would like to be able to answer with your model. Watch the video from the beginning of the lesson. The video shows parts of the life cycle of a flowering plant. Look at the diagram on page 56 in the Science Handbook. The diagram shows the complete life cycle of a cherry tree. Use the diagram on page 56 as an example. Draw a model of the life cycle of the plant shown in the video. Include and label the following stages in the life cycle in your model: seed, germination, young plant, flower, pollination, and adult plant. So those are all going to be listed. Let's go back. In your Science Handbook. So we'll go ahead back in here and take a look at page 56. Or you can rewind the video and go back and see page 56. And then based on the video we saw at the very beginning of the baby plant, the person planting it and covering it with soil, and then watching the baby plant as it sprouts, you can go ahead and answer the questions and then create your diagram. And then number 1 over here says construct an explanation. How is the life cycle of this plant similar to the life cycle of the plant that reproduces with cones? How is it different? This information is also in the reading that we already did. And then think about the video of the growing plant that you watched. Explain how the life cycle of the plants are similar. And you don't need to answer the I did question. So again, over here, reproducing with flowers and then reproducing with cones. You can find all of the information there. The life cycle of the cherry tree, the life cycle of the pine tree for reproduction with conifers. All of the information you need are listed in these pages and throughout the video. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day, 3rd grade. Take care. Bye-bye.